City. Get into the packet pickup. I'm going to 41, I was told. So they just scanned my little QR code. This is my packet pickup. Lots of information. Now we're gonna head into the actual expo. Gonna get my t-shirt. I'm gonna try to get my bag now. Got some deep dish pizza. It's a millennium thing, right? All other signs glitter. Listening. We are back from the expo and walking around. So this is everything we got at the expo. So of course you always get your little gear check bab here. I like how they have write your bib number here. I do not have a Sharpie for that. I guess they'd have to give you that tomorrow. But everyone's bib comes in these little like folders essentially that have your name on it and everything. And then they have lots of information on this, which I think is really helpful because I don't think New York did this, and I feel like this could have been helpful for New York. Then inside is literally just your bib and then all of your safety pins as well. And in here too, it says that, you know, like this is your corral number. It's like everything on the bib kind of means something. So that way it's a bit more clear. I don't think it's as crazy as I know the Tokyo bibs are, that the Tokyo bibs are like very specific on how you do things. But either way, though, it also gives you like a suggestion of, you know, how to, which gate to enter as well. So we'll see when I arrive tomorrow morning. So then also when I was there, these are the items I sort of picked up. So I'm actually running with Advocate Healthcare. So I got my little tote bag with them. The bag also, like the expo bag also came with a bunch of coupons and all these little things. So it came with like a little deodorant, which I thought was cute. Some, you know, electrolytes. Again, those are just basically a bunch of coupons. This was the t-shirt that comes with your registration. I got a size medium. I will say sometimes they run big, sometimes they run small. This year they definitely run small, so I'm glad I got a medium. And then for purchase, I got these 3 items here. So first, I got the Nike running jacket, so the official running jacket. The main jacket was actually in white, but if I'm being honest, I really would never wear a white jacket like that. So I'm glad they also had a black jacket. So I got the Nike running jacket. And then honestly, I didn't like any of the other Nike designs. So this is from 06, so I got the 06 just like Run Chicago shirt here. And then this was just a random vendor that just like had a bunch of stuff. I will say that was something that I did like about this expo, is that almost every vendor had like Run Chicago 26.2 like items for sale, not just the official vendor. And so because of that, there were I would say there were a lot more options for things to purchase. However, because I came on Saturday, the only sizes that were left in this crew neck was a size large and a size small. And I really wanted a medium. And they had this in a bunch of other colors too, but I really wanted the light blue color. So I just got the large, it's just gonna be big. But I love stuff that has the map on it. So I think that looks really cool. But yeah, but that's everything that we got at the expo. Alright, if anyone ever wonders the glory of running a race, walking down the block to the train in 2 trash bags. I look ridiculous. I passed some of the runners in the lobby and they were dressed normally because they brought tearaway clothes. But your girl was poor. She forgot to get tearaway clothes. So here we are going out. And I feel like every time I run a race, especially when I don't know what the weather exactly is going to be, I struggle of what to actually wear, because it's going to be in the 50s before and during the entire race. Now, normally at home in the 50s, I run in shorts and a tank top, so that's what I'm wearing. However, I did bring a whole outfit in case I wanted to wear leggings and a long sleeve. The thing is that I think I'm going to get too hot, so And that's the other thing too, is that it's cold in this city, right? It's windy, so I'm like, maybe I should have worn my leggings, but I don't know, something in me just said, just wear the shorts. So I'm wearing the shorts, I'm wearing a trash bag as a shirt, and a trash bag as a skirt. And I will say, I feel okay right now, and the temperature right now is what it's going to be basically up until the race starts. Now it'll probably be colder once I get into the city because it's windier in the city, and right now I'm technically outside the city. So I mean, like, one time I film this, the race will be over. But I'm out in Cumberland right now, so I'm walking to the blue line, and me and Ted took the blue line in and back here yesterday, so I could just kind of see what it was like, so I didn't have to do this by myself right now at 5:30 in the morning. So alright, so it's really not that bad though. I mean, like, I've lived in this city for 11 years now, so taking public transit is no big deal to me. But alright, let's just get over to the train. And I just feel like I look ridiculous. just a girl walking down the road in 2 trash bags. Okay, so when you get here, you can kind of see over there the walkway I'm going to take over to the Cumberland train station. And you know you're at the right spot because you're at the Marianos. Right, yeah, across the road now, but yeah, at the Marianos. And then you keep walking over here. There's like a sign, but it's kind of dark right now, so you can't see it. But it says Blue Line. So you'll take that little pathway to that walking bridge to cross the highway. And you kind of see right there now. Over to the train station.
I'd be very
and my thing suggests that I get onto gate 5. So gate 5 is kind of over here. Yeah. I'm on gate 5 now. Also, I didn't say, but I got off at Jackson. That was the stop I got off. And the stop that everyone else got off. So we all got off at the same stop. Looks like we're going to need some food.
And he seems to be visible to...
This is a beautiful park, that's for sure.
fueling on course today. What's important, the fuel behind the fastest marathon.
I'm debating if I should just stay here. I have a lot of time actually before my part of the race starts. But it's only like 40 minutes until the race itself starts. So let me just go pop a squat, honestly. I don't really feel like doing anything else.
Facilities, lemon lime flavor Gatorade
in Rampart. Once again, we are at a low alert level, but should those conditions change at any point during the event, you'll be advised of the current EAS level on course and at 8 some PA announcements. All right, we are just under 5 minutes from the start. Wave 3, are you feeling it? Yeah?
Just finished in about 5 hours. Not the best of times, but still a finish.
Send a picture of that to your dad?
That's so funny.
Alrighty, and welcome back to the Mother-Daughter Disney podcast. My name is Amanda. I'm here with my lovely mother.
Hi, I'm Jeanette.
And today we're going to be doing a little bit different from Disney, but we're going to be doing a race review and recap for the Chicago Marathon 2025. Now, the reason why I wanted to do this was just because I think it's just interesting, and we've talked about Run Disney in the past before too. So I do know there are other runners who do listen to the podcast, so that'll be fun just kind of to talk about it, right? So, and also I didn't really give my mom a lot of details on the Chicago Marathon. We barely talked about it, honestly. Figured maybe we could just do it all in one, essentially, right? So, all right, so let's start with the Chicago Marathon. It took place on October 12th, 2025 this year, and this was my 7th marathon and my 2nd of the world major marathons. Me and my husband flew into Chicago on October 11th, and so again, the race was on the 12th. Now, they did have a 5K and a half marathon as part of the overall weekend, so of course, if you're doing one of those, you gotta get in earlier, that's for sure. But of course, I was only doing the marathon. So we flew on the 11th, and then we went down to McCormick Place, which is where the expo was, the running expo. So this is the Albeit Health and Fitness Expo is what it's called. Now, getting to McCormick, now I had never been to Chicago. This is my first time truly in the city of Chicago, so I definitely learned a lot when I got there. So I guess I should back up and say too, well, yeah, let's just do this first. So we get to the expo. Essentially, our hotel, we stayed at the Spring Hill Resorts, which is on the Blue Line, and it's off the Cumberland stop. So if you're on the Blue Line, it literally goes O'Hare, which is the airport, and then Cumberland, which is where we were. Okay. So we were staying far outside of the city. The main reason because the hotels in the city were very expensive, and I was trying not to spend $1,000 a night.
When you were little.
Yeah, so I was trying not to spend like $1,000 a night, so I did not stay within the city of Chicago in itself. Which, of course, the prices were only high because of the city. Because otherwise, I'm actually going back to Chicago for a work conference soon, and I think I'm staying in the same hotel that I could have stayed in for the marathon weekend. That was $1,000 a night for about $150 a night, right?
I know, because they know.
So, yeah, so all I'd say is like the prices are very jacked up for the marathon, so definitely make sure you book your items early if you are going to stay there, or if you're planning a trip to Chicago, I would say try not to go during the marathon weekend just because it's going to be very crowded with a lot of runners. Again, this is a world major, so there's 7 world majors in the world right now, and Chicago is one of them. So we have in the US, it's Chicago, New York, and Boston, and then in Europe, it's Berlin and London, and then in Asia, we have Tokyo, and then the newest world major is the one in Sydney, Australia, and that makes the 7th one. Now, to become a world major, it takes a lot to become one of the world major Albeit races, right? And so there's a lot of qualifications that the races have to do. It takes many years to qualify to become a world major race, and that's why it was a big deal when Sydney, Australia did become a world major the last couple of years, because it from there between Tokyo and Sydney, I think was many years in between. And the next world major to be added probably won't be added for at least a couple more years still, but they're eyeing up one of the races in China, I believe. So it's between Sydney and a race in China. Sydney won out, so I'm assuming maybe that one in China will be the next one in a couple more years. So we'll see. But all that to say, because Chicago is a world major, it brings in a lot of runners. And so a lot of people internationally will be running this race. So the city will be crowded. Of course, the prices are going to be higher. And that is why we stayed on the second to last subway line on the Blue Line. So we stayed at the Spring Hill Suites. I would say the hotel was okay overall, but I picked the hotel because of its proximity to public transportation. So for this race, if you read anything, it says public transportation to the start line is the best way to go. And so I wanted to test it out on Saturday because, again, this is my first time in Chicago. I had no idea how to take their public transportation, how it worked. If an Uber would have been easier or better, who knew? But me and my husband figured it out. It was honestly very easy. Now, I will say I have lived in a city in general. I've lived in Boston. Now I live in Philadelphia for 11 years. So I'm pretty used to taking public transportation. So if you've never taken public transportation before, it may be a little bit tricky to figure out. Yeah. But there were workers at all of the stops to help people because I think they knew that there was a lot of people, in the city. Right. Even people just in Illinois who don't normally go into the city. I think there's just a lot of people. So even when we were buying our little ticket to get on the train, there was like a worker there who kind of talked us through like, this is how you do it. And it was very simple to do. So, but all that to say, to get from where we stayed on the Blue Line to McCormick Place was honestly kind of complicated. And I would say if you're not used to traveling in a city, I would just take an Uber or take a taxi because it was a little complicated. We figured it out because we've taken trains, but we switched trains twice. So we also took the wrong train at one point and we had to take the train back to a different stop. So yeah, so we did take 2 trains basically to get to McCormick Place. And even when we got there, it was still, I would say, like a 15-minute walk from where we ended up leaving. I think it was like somewhere on the Green Line. I can't remember the exact stops, but there's a few places. And at a certain point, you will realize you're just surrounded by other people going to the expo and you just follow the crowd, right? So at a certain point, just start following the crowd and just trust that they all know where they're going because there's only one place to go, right? But it was about a 15-minute walk from the Green Line to get to McCormick Place, which is kind of a lot, right? You're doing a lot of walking and the day before the marathon, which you want to try maybe not to do. So we got to McCormick Place. Once you get there, I had never been to McCormick Place either. It's a really big convention hall. Funny enough, I will be there for work in like next week. So I'm going to the same place, I think in the same area, but they were at the Riverside Pavilion, which of course is the furthest pavilion in McCormick Place. So you enter, you have to walk all the way through. I would say, again, a lot of people are walking in the direction, so you sort of just follow the crowd. I can't exactly tell you where to go because I just followed the crowd. It was the easiest thing to do. So you do walk over the highway though. If you're walking over the highway, you start to see the signs. Now, once you get to where you actually start to register, they will have sent you an email with a QR code for you to scan in for your registration. Now, I missed that email because I'm a dummy dum-dum, so I didn't have the email ready. So we're waiting online. We get to the front and I'm like, I have no idea what everyone else is presenting. So I told my husband, I'm like, I'm missing something because everyone has a QR code and I don't have a QR code. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. We get off the line. I score through my email. I eventually find my QR code. I mean, like I knew I was registered for the race. I just didn't have the QR code, right? So I finally find my QR code, but just note when you get that email, I would flag it because you are going to get QR code and you have to show that QR code to get your bib essentially. So they scan it. They will send you to a number where they have all the bibs like lined up. And so then you get your bib. It'll come like a little packet. And the packet on the outside had a bunch of instructions on it on like getting to the starting race, how the corrals are going to work, like every FAQ question you would have, that packet basically kind of had it on the front, which was very convenient. And I did really appreciate that. The expo itself was very crowded still, even on Saturday. Now, I only note this because I have run New York City before. And so when I ran New York City, I found the expo wasn't as crowded on the Saturday when I went because I also did the same thing the day before the race. I tend to just go to the expos the day before the race. But yeah, I found that Chicago was much more crowded than what New York City was. Now, I'm going to compare Chicago and New York because I think it's worth it because they are 2 world majors and there are only 2 I've run, so I can't compare it to any other races, of course. But I would say I did find Chicago to be more organized at the expo for sure. So everything was very organized. It was very well run. There were lots of signs everywhere, lots of people that could give you directions for where you were going. And I found in New York didn't have that as much, but it's pretty self-explanatory to a certain extent where you're going and what you're doing. So again, I think the crowd control was a little bit better in Chicago than in comparison to New York's expo. Now, I want to preface New York with I did run New York's race the first year post-COVID. So I think a lot of things could have been different because it was post-COVID. Yeah. Who knows? But anyway, though, so at the expo itself, I end up going the first. So Nike is one of the main sponsors for the Chicago Marathon. So they have the main jacket. So you get there. I was worried things are going to be sold out because things do sell out very quickly at some of these races. Luckily, nothing was sold out. At least I think that's partially because the designs were kind of ugly. So just being honest, I thought the designs were kind of ugly though. So I did get the jacket. The jacket was very cute, but was the design great? No, not in my opinion, but I still bought that jacket for $135. Right, that's for sure.
You want a jacket from everyone.
But they had some t-shirts and some sweatshirts and I really wanted a t-shirt, but the t-shirt was so ugly and the sweatshirt was so ugly and I was so disappointed because I really wanted the official stuff, but I couldn't do it. Now, the thing about the World Majors that's great is because sometimes at other races, if you're not the main sponsor, they don't make merch for the race other than the main sponsor. But because it's a World Major, every other major athletic company was there with merch for the race, which was great.
But didn't they have something cute?
They did. So the main sneakers I like to wear, which is just a bias, but New Balance is one of my favorite brands. All of their Chicago Marathon stuff was sold out. So I couldn't get any of their stuff, which was really cute, I would say. But I couldn't get it. So instead, I just shopped all the other ones. Like Under Armour had some nice jackets. Brooks Running had some nice jackets. 06. Like a lot of other brands had some nice stuff. So I did end up getting like a crew neck from a different brand. And I got a t-shirt from another brand essentially. So just to say, there's going to be other options other than the main sponsor. But again, other races don't always have that. So I kind of forgot that a world major would have that though, just because again, I hadn't run a world major in a while. So I did get some of my items there. Of course, they do put the t-shirt that comes with your registration and like the bag, like all the way in the back. So you have to like walk all the way to back, get your t-shirt and everything like that. But anyway, so we got our items and then we left. Leaving the expo was actually kind of complicated. It was a little confusing how you leave it, but again, you sort of just follow the crowd and even the crowd was like, where are we going? So anyway, though, we eventually got out of there. And then for the rest of the day, we just walked around just a little bit, just around the city. We really wanted to try deep dish pizza just because I had never had the Chicago deep dish pizza. It was not very good in my opinion. I didn't really love it. Sorry to be a hater for anyone who's from Chicago. I'm from the New Jersey, so I'm used to Jersey and New York pizza, and I definitely prefer New York over Chicago. Chicago
Me
pizza.
too.
That is for sure. We saw a few other like major monuments when we were there. One of the things that Ted wanted to see was, what's his name from the Blues Brothers? What's the Blues Brothers
Elwood?
name? Elwood, yeah. So the Blues Brothers was filmed in Chicago, of course. So you could see Elwood's apartment. So we found the
okay. I didn't
address
know
for
that.
Elwood,
Okay.
whatever, what's his last name?
Elwood and Jake Blues.
So we went to the address of Elwood's apartment, and when we got there was nothing, and we were confused. There's like a parking lot, and we're like, what's here? Essentially, we found out they took the building down.
Oh,
So they took the building down.
I didn't even know they
it's
had
in like
that.
a main part of Chicago too. Like the race went by this area, right? Main part of Chicago is by the Jackson Blue Line stop, actually. So if you know where that is, Jackson Blue Line stop is right there. And yeah, they took the building down. So we took a photo of like where the building used to be, but it's no longer there.
Poor
But that was
Elwood.
really funny.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're on the next morning, on Sunday morning, October 12th. So the race itself officially started at 7:30 with the elite runners. And like when you get your corral, they will tell you like this is your proposed time to get to the starting line. So for me, I was in corral K, wave 1 technically. And so, which is like one of the last corrals, which humbles you real fast because when I do Run Disney, I'm in corral A, right? I'm in like the first corral for Run Disney. When you do a world major, I'm in like the last corral. It's like, goodness gracious. It's like, yeah, that puts you in your place for sure.
Okay.
So anyway, so the race though was starting at 7:30. It was suggested for me to get to the starting line around 6:30, and it's about an hour from the Cumberland Blue Line stop to get down to Jackson. Now, when you get on at Jackson, there's only one other stop before you, but the train is going to be crowded. Even when I got on around 5:30, I would say. Yeah, I can tell you the exact time. Yeah, 5:30 is about the time I got on. And so yeah, so the train is crowded. I would suggest trying to get like to an emptier car to find a seat, just because you are going to be standing then for an hour, and I mean like it's kind of uncomfortable to stand on a train for an hour. So I like ran down to like an empty car so I could find a seat so I could sit down for the hour, because it's also early too and you're still tired. I'm also by myself, right? So it's like a lot of runners run with other people. There are a lot of runners who will run by themselves. But anyway though, so I got on the train. Now I did not bring any tearaway clothes with me this time. Normally I do have like an old pair of sweatshirt or like a shirt or something like that. It was chilly in the morning. It was like in the 50s in the morning, but it warmed up really quickly to like the 60s and 70s once the race had started. So I just did the trash bag method, which is a very popular method. A lot of races, you just put a trash bag on and call it a day. I was the only one who did this. So talk about looking like the poor person on the train, right? Like here I am wearing 2 trash bags on this train, and like no one else is wearing a trash bag. I'm like, goodness gracious. I'm like, what is this?
Right, didn't they run the New York Marathon?
Yeah, it's like it's very common for people to wear trash bags, but it's like, yeah, no one wore a trash bag for this race. I was like the only one. So you feel a little silly when you're the only one wearing the trash bag, but everyone else had like proper tearaway clothes. So it's like, okay, whatever. So when I would suggest to, again, follow the crowd. Once you get to the right stop, I knew what stop I was getting at, which is actually the Jackson stop. Everyone's getting up and getting off the train at the same time. Just get off with everyone else, follow the crowd, and you'll find the entrance essentially. Now, Chicago will give you gates, that like proposed gates for you to enter to get into where the corrals are actually going to be. The start of the race is in Millennial Park, which is in one of the main areas of Chicago, like the main touristy section. That's where the race is going to start and end as well. And so there are gates to get into the park. I forget what gate I was in, but everyone is just given a different gate just for crowd control purposes. Now, you don't have to go through that gate technically. You can go through whatever gate that you want to go through. But again, it's just like for their purposes. I did find my actual right gate just because I happened upon it. I was like, oh, perfect. I'll just go through the gate I was assigned. The security was very simple. You just go through security. They have the Evolve technology. Same thing in Disney World, actually. They just like walk through for metal. You do have to have your bib visible at all times. And at this point, once you get to security, it's runners only, of course, which is pretty common in any race that it becomes runners only. And then because you have to like cross the bridge, because it's like, it's hard to describe the park. We have to like cross this bridge. Once you cross that bridge over into like the main part of the park, that's like truly like it's runners only there. Like no one else could really get over there. And it's very secure, I would say, as well. And so once you get there, all of the corrals are lined up basically on a street. If you've ever run a Philadelphia race, it's very similar to how Philly does their races as well. They're all sort of just like lined up on the streets, essentially on like the main street. Everything is pretty clearly labeled. Now, I couldn't tell how strict they were about going into like the right corral, because some races are very strict that they only will let you in the right corral and the right wave at, they'll check your bib and everything. And other races are kind of lenient, that there's like a little bit of wiggle room where you can like sneak into an earlier corral, right? So I just went into the right corral because I didn't want to, put up a fight with anyone. I wasn't sure, but I did see 1 or 2 runners in my corral who were in corral N, which would have been after my corral, that were in corral K. So I did notice that. Again, could have just slipped by, or like they could have just gotten lost, because it is like a little bit confusing, I would say. But I would say their directions were pretty clear overall. Now, I would like to now compare this to New York City. So in comparison, Chicago is definitely way more organized when it comes to the starting line than New York City was. Now, this is partially because for New York City, you start the race in Staten Island. So basically everyone has to be bussed out to Staten Island, right? And so when I ran New York City, we were staying kind of in the heart, I would say, of New York City. And there are certain locations in New York where they will have the buses. And so you get to where the buses are, there's going to going to be a lot of people there in New York City. You get on the line and then, you kind of weave in out of the line. I remember at the time he wasn't even my fiance yet. He was still just my boyfriend. But now my husband had walked me to the line. And so he saw where the line was and he waited for me a little bit. And then I told him, I was like, you don't have to wait for me this whole line, obviously, because I'm just getting on a bus and like going to Staten Island. And so because of that, you do have to get up earlier in that sense as well, because then you have to wait on the line to get on the bus. Then the bus has to drive you to Staten Island, obviously, which takes like, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes or something. And then you get to the starting lines there. Now, I found the starting area in Staten Island to be extremely disorganized and kind of all over the place, if I'm being honest. And it's funny because Chicago and New York have the same amount of runners, right? So in theory, it's the same amount of people, which is about 50,000 people running this race. But I think Staten Island is just so big, right? It's like small, the area. It's way smaller. Where you actually start. So the way New York did it, at least when I was doing it, it's you're basically in this area of like grass. And then each section kind of has like, you just stand around in your corral. And then when it's your turn to run, essentially, you go up to like where the actual starting line is. So you actually you're basically in just one big crowd until it's time for you to go run. And then you all just go to where the starting line is. Whereas here, you're actually properly lining up before you do the race, which I much rather prefer rather than just being in like an amorphic crowd. And I want to note too, in New York City, because I got there so early and the race started so much later than Chicago. And that's a criticism of Chicago, that Chicago starts really early. I feel like most runners prefer starting early than starting late. But in Chicago though, in New York City, you start a lot later. And so you're just waiting around for a really long time to start the race. There's no service where you are. There's like not any service at all in the starting area. So I remember sat there for hours. I couldn't text anyone of what was going on or that I was just waiting or whatever because I had no service. There's no Wi-Fi. And so I kind of disliked that. And in Chicago, you do have service. So at least
right in the middle of everything.
At least I was sitting, I could still like text people or just like go on my phone for a little bit or something like that. So all that to say, I definitely preferred the organization of Chicago over New York, especially when it came to the starting line. Now the race itself started officially at 7:30 with the elite runners. And then my wave did not start until 8:30, which is really fun because when I got to the starting line, you could see on the TV that the elite runners were at mile 13. They were halfway done with the race and I was just starting the race, right? So that's always really fun when you see that, right? So anyway, so 8:30, the race starts. Now, I did not know this until after the race, but Chicago is notorious that any running app will get confused when you're in Chicago. So it messes up your pace essentially. So according to my running app, I ran 27 miles, not 26 miles. It basically added a whole mile into my running app. So my app is completely wrong essentially. And that is, there are certain pockets of the race where like every app like Strava, Runkeeper, and the Nike running app, they all will get messed up for it. And they suggest that either you pause the app or again, you take your own pace times or anything, because this is very notorious for Chicago. Again, I didn't realize that though, so I didn't do that. So my pace times are just all over the place. So I have no idea what I ran, if I'm being honest, because it was all over the place and I ran an extra mile according to my running app. But yeah, so just to say that, it's like just I would say maybe try to keep your own pace. Now overall, everyone says that this course is very fast and very flat. I would say it is pretty flat overall. There aren't really any major hills or any major like steepness in the overall course. The only thing I noticed that I disliked about it, which is nothing against the race itself, was that when you run over, there's a few short bridges to run over, like that river that runs through Chicago. The road itself is graded and the grades are in like little squares. So it's like you're running on top of these little baby squares essentially, which is very uncomfortable for your feet and it feels really weird. Now there will be sections of the course where they put carpet down so you can run on the carpet, but honestly that didn't really fix the problem. It just feels really weird to run on the crate and it feels like you're going to trip essentially. There were other parts of the race where I guess like especially through some of the water stations where the floor got really slippery, and I found like I was running and being like I could fall at any moment because it's like so slippery right now. So again, just like things I noticed, I feel like I hadn't really noticed in other races. I feel like it's pretty common to run through a water station to be a little bit slippery, but there were definitely some areas that were like way slippery more than others for sure. So sorry. So how did my actual personal race did? I did not do well in this race. I actually did really poorly in this race. This is my second slowest race, which is pretty funny. My slowest race was New York City and my second slowest is Chicago. It's not me running my slowest at the two world majors that cost the most for me to run, right? But anyway, I would say my biggest challenges in this race for me personally, I think I underfueled, honestly. I don't think I was fueling properly. And I think too, I had a really bad mental block that day for some reason. Anyone who does sports kind of has this, but sometimes you're just like having a bad day mentally, like you're just like not in the mood for a run. And that's kind of how I felt. I was really pushing through the mental block the whole time, but I could feel it. It was like wearing down on me. By the time I got to those last few miles, it was tough to think. It's like, I still have miles to go. And it's like, I just can't do this, right? Plus too, like my legs weren't feeling that good because I was under fueling. At mile 18, I had this horrible leg cramp. It was so painful. It was the sharpest pain I've ever felt when I was running that I actually like almost like burst into tears. It was so painful. I was able to walk it off, layered up the BioFreeze, that's for sure. I had multiple layers of BioFreeze on my legs to run the last few miles of this race. And then another criticism of this race is that you kind of go like in a little loop basically. So as you're running, playing, you can see the runners on the other side of the road are going back. And so you see mile 24 on the other side of the race, but you're not even at mile 22 yet. So a lot of people say it's really hard when you're not even at mile 22, but you see the other side of the course at mile 24, but you still have like 5 miles to go. So I didn't even really notice that because at that point I was in such a weird mental space and it's like my legs hurt so much. I was just like, I don't know. And then I saw this really funny Instagram reel afterwards. I was just like, hey, I saw you during the race. How come you didn't wave? And then it cuts to like you running the race and it's like this horrible dystopian like, black thing. And it's like, this is what I saw for the 4 hours of the race. And like, that's what I saw basically. I didn't really see anything of this race overall. So, but I did know I was going to finish. Like at a certain point I realized I'm definitely going to finish the race. There's no way I'm not going to finish for sure. Now, one other thing that I think this race did really well in is that they have hydration stations basically every mile, which is kind of unheard for most races. Even New York City didn't have hydration
New York,
stations.
that was ridiculous. We had to bring you water.
So that was, again, another criticism between Chicago and New York. Now, again, this could be because it was post-COVID, so they didn't have enough volunteers to run the hydration station. So I don't blame New York for this. But to know, again, Chicago had way more. They had one every single mile, which is really nice. They always start with Gatorade and then they do water, which is inconvenient when you're a water drinker and you have to like pass the Gatorade people. Also, the Gatorade thing is sticky. Everything is sticky past the Gatorade station. That's beside the point. But then you get to the water station, which is just really nice because I did bring my own water bottle to run the race because sometimes I just like want to have my own water, especially since the last few races I ran were smaller races. Like I ran Richmond, Virginia last year and then Niagara Falls 2 years ago, which in comparison to these races are much smaller. So they don't have as many hydration stations. And so I definitely didn't need to bring my water because there was plenty of water along the race. They also had people who would fill your water bottle too if you needed to, but I didn't even need that because I was hydrated enough at least with the water stations. The only criticism here is that it wasn't always clear where the porta potties were, like where the restrooms were. They did try to have signs that said where the restrooms were, but sometimes you couldn't always figure out where they were, which I did notice that, and I did have to use the bathroom once during the race. And so yeah, so let's jump to New York real quick. When I ran New York, when I was running the race, we were being told that the hydration stations in front of us had no water and that we needed to take water there, and that people were saying like on the sidelines like there's no water ahead, like, or like you run past a station, you'd realize that there was no water and that now you have to figure it out, right? And so I did text my family and say, you need to bring a water bottle so I could just have some sips of water or just bring the water bottle with me, which I did eventually. New York City was my fourth marathon at that point. So I didn't bring my water bottle from that one because I thought there would be enough on the race, but there wasn't. And I was still, even though I ran that race in over 5 hours, there were still runners behind me who ran the race in like 6 hours, that people were like waterfalling water, like just sharing bottles of water at the hydration
the problem
stations.
also was that happened to be a very hot and humid day.
It was very hot. It was unusual.
Uncharacteristically hot and humid.
Because New York is also in November, so you'd expect it to be cooler in
It
November.
was like 80 degrees and humid. It was ridiculous.
So yeah, so it was, and it was tough because again, there weren't enough volunteers to fill the little cups of water to hand the water out.
So people were probably wanting more water, then there wasn't enough water, and that was just causing
so it was honestly just such a hot mess when I ran New York City. And again, it's like for the runners actively running the race to being told like there's no water in the future stations, like you need to figure something out, it's kind of unheard of.
That means you have to get off the course and go buy water.
To be actively running the race and being told that, or like going through a hydration station, them saying like there's no more water in the neck, like you're only at mile 16, you have 10 miles to go and there's no more water. It's like that's a lot to hear when you're actively in the race itself. So Chicago did not have that problem at all. There was plenty of water. There is water stations up until mile 25 of this race, right? Okay. So you have water stations like a half mile to the finish line, there's water stations. Okay. So it is great to have that because again, I have not done any other race. Like even Disney doesn't have that many water stations, right? Most races usually do good, like big races will do like every 2 miles, but again, every mile to have a station is just really great. Okay. And they also had a big biofreeze station too, which I did do. You do feel kind of bad to a certain extent because you just stand in front of this person and they just spray you with biofreeze. And it's like, thanks man. And then you just leave.
I didn't even know they do that.
Like,
okay.
You just feel bad. I'm just like, I'm sorry, you're just like a slave right now to me as you're spraying my legs with biofreeze.
Well, that's what they're there for, to volunteer. Okay.
I don't know, I just feel weird about that.
Okay. What about the people feeding you water? They're the same thing.
I do. Yeah, I always say thank you to the volunteers, right? It's always very kind when people do this because it takes a lot. That's what they're there for. Now, something else I want to point out that I noticed in Chicago that I've not seen again in any other race that was unique was that, and I have seen this a little bit. So sometimes when you run a race, there's people along the sides that will give out like water or food or beer. You know, it's just, like that's like common to see. But I noticed in Chicago there was a lot of that. There were a lot of people that had like full tents, full tables set up with all this food.
Oh wow!
Like Pop-Tarts, pretzels, like bananas,
I
real
think
food.
People ate when they were running.
Yeah, like all like Gatorade, water, beer, all these types of drinks, vodka, right? It's
wow.
Like and this was like every mile there was at least one to 5 tables of people fully set up for runners and for like spectators as well, right? And that was just amazing to me because I had never seen that before. Because even when I run other races, sometimes you'll see people that have like maybe they're giving out waters or tissues or something like that, but not to the extent where like people had full-on table setups, and that was just wild to see. Now, sometimes when I've run races, I've been told you need to be wary when people are giving you free stuff like this. You never know what people are giving in food.
You don't know what's in it. Right?
Yeah, especially if they're giving, like drinks. Is like, most of the time, like people are obviously good people. They're not going to give you anything spiked or anything. Know. But the thing is, sometimes people are giving out alcohol, and you think it's water, and they're like being fun. They want to give you alcohol, and then you're like looking for water, and then you take a shot of vodka by accident, right? So it's like you need to be careful sometimes with like what you are taking from people. But apparently that's a thing though in Chicago that the spectators do like to set up tables and they do give out food. And again, I just didn't know that. It was just really cool to see the community aspect of the race of like everyone coming together to do this was just really cool to see, because again, no other race has done that for sure. Now, another thing I heard about Chicago as well is that there is a lot of spectators along the sides the entire race. So for instance, in New York City, there's spectators along the entire race except for the bridges, but there are a few miles of bridges in total in New York City. So you will go a couple miles where there's no one because you're just on a bridge and they can't have spectators on a bridge. Whereas Chicago doesn't really have that. So there are basically spectators along the entire race, I would say, which is a lot if you think about it, because it is 26 miles. Now, of course, there's slow areas and like, more crowded areas of spectators. So like that happens too, even in New York. No offense to the Bronx, but there's really no one in the Bronx for being really honest. The race. So, but yeah, that was some empty parts of the New York City race was the Bronx. Yeah, same thing, Chicago, some like slower areas, but for the most part, there were spectators the whole race, which is really cool to see. And I would say for like race entertainment, there isn't really any race entertainment in this race. Again, some races will have like bands playing or comedians, certain things. Obviously, Disney has like movies playing sometimes. Disney does a lot for race entertainment, I would say, along the race. Chicago doesn't have much. I think I saw one band, and I'm pretty sure every race entertainment I saw was not because of the race. It was just because of the spectators. Like people just set up stuff and just did fun stuff, right? Even some fire hydrants, they had some fire hydrants going, because by the end of the race, it did get very warm. It was almost in the 70s. I think it was in the high 60s, I would say. And it was full sun. Like the last 10 miles, the sun came out, no clouds, no shade, no anything. You were just fully baking in the sun. And that was pretty tough, I would say, just to be baked in the sun for the last like hour and a half of the race. So, all right. So as you're getting towards the end of the race, again, I was not feeling well this time. I had my mental block. My legs weren't feeling well. I kept having to stretch my legs, mainly because at a certain point I realized I used too much biofreeze, and I was worried that I numbed my legs in the pain and that I was going to be in so much pain after the race because I couldn't feel the pain because I was so numb. So I kept stopping the stretch. When you get to the final, I would say half mile of the race, they have not necessarily medical staff, but event staff basically every 2 feet. So you're running past all this event staff, and if you stop for whatever reason, they will come to you and be like, are you okay? And like, do you not, like, like they'll just make sure you're okay, essentially, which is very kind. But then I feel bad to be like, I'm fine, I just need to stretch. So then you feel a little silly because it's like you're so close, but it's like, which is a thing, like considering you're so close, you should be able to push through. But again, I was just so worried that like I was like tearing like my legs apart because I couldn't feel the pain or something like that I just wanted to stretch, just every few feet, essentially I was just stretching was all. But just say they have event staff really much lining the end of the race. When you get to the finish line, like a lot of races, I would say it kind of depends per race, but sometimes like for instance, Disney has this too, where you do not see the finish line until you come around a corner and then you see it and then you're basically done. Chicago is kind of the same way, where you do not see the finish line until like once you come around this corner, you see it and then you're done. I do kind of prefer races where you see it a little bit more in the distance and you're running towards it, because I think that's more motivating in that sense. But they do have countdown meters to be like you're only like 400 meters away or like 800 meters away or something. But anyway, once you get to the finish line, it is very exciting. Of course, they do have all these spectators, of course, along the edges. Now, of course, everyone knows that for any world major, any major race, it's very controlled who can get close to the finish line in itself. So it's very controlled in that sense. So my husband could not get close to the finish line, which I knew he was not going to be able to. He's very disappointed in that sense, because he's normally seen me at every finish line that I've done. And this was like one of the first ones in the last couple of years. He could not see me at the finish line, not for lack of him trying. I know he was trying quite hard to. And so, but anyway, so I crossed the finish line. As soon as I crossed, it was definitely a relief. The first thing they do give you is water, which is nice. I have gone to races where the first thing they give you is not water. It's like a towel or like the medal. And it's like, I feel like water should be number one, but that's just my opinion. So I don't drop dead. So I did get my water. Then the only other thing, so when you finish the race, you're kind of walking through, it's a little slow. Now you're starting to feel like your legs seize up, because it's like, oh, we're not going to be running anymore. Because of course, you take walking breaks when you run, but you're going to start running soon. So mentally, you're going to keep running. But once you stop running and you're like, oh, I'm walking, I'm no longer going to run, that's when your legs are like, yes, I'm just going to stop working. So you cross over, you're walking through basically the finishing line. And again, I liked Chicago's better in the sense that it wasn't as long as New York City.
Oh God,
New York
that
City,
was ridiculous.
I felt like I walked another mile and a half.
It was
just to leave.
It was ridiculous because we were at the finish line at New York City, and we had to walk all the way to the end of the park. And I'm like, how is she doing this?
I feel like New York City needs more outs for you to leave quicker than what I was.
They make you all go up to the end.
That was really tough in New York, and New York was the longest one, I'll say.
Which is my hint for New York City.
Yeah.
My hint for New York City is don't get a hotel room at the beginning of the race. Get a hotel room.
Well, we
at
didn't
the
know that
end
because
of
we
the
didn't know
race.
we could, that was going to be.
Because then we also
path.
had to walk all the way back down to the hotel.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
guys left after that.
We left from the hotel, but we still met you all
Yeah.
the way at the end, and then all of us had. And obviously, she's walking at like the slowest pace, because you have to.
Yeah.
But I said to myself, I would have known that we would have got a hotel all the way up there,
We
as
didn't know
opposed to
But anyway, though, for Chicago, it's a lot shorter.
shorter.
But the only thing about Chicago is that they do not give you like a bag is the thing. So you're getting all this stuff, right? Now I have my water. Now I have my little Gatorade.
Okay.
I put my medal around my head. Then I get my little bag of my popcorn. They give you like I didn't take the banana, but you have like your little protein bar they give you.
So your
then
arms are all loaded.
every racer gets a free beer. That's like a big thing. Was the Island Goose beer.
Really?
So I was gonna get the beer for my husband. So I went up and I got the beer. Now I'm holding this open thing of beer, and now I'm like, all right. And then the next thing is the ice, and then they give you like a protein shake, like a protein chocolate shake, like one of the sponsors. And so I had those. Now at this point, I can't carry anything else. Like there's only so many items, and then plus I have my own water bottle that I carry throughout the whole race.
How do they expect people to carry all this
So
stuff out?
anyway, so when I was at the chocolate protein people, they said the next booth was the ice booth, but they were giving away bags you can put stuff in. So I went there, got the little bag from the ice people that they were putting ice in, and then put all my stuff in that bag. But then that bag was really heavy, so now I'm carrying all this stuff still, and I'm still trying to figure out how to leave to the exit area for like the reuniting with loved ones.
Right.
And so I passed some porta potties, and now of course now this is where I didn't have service because now at this point in the beginning of the race when we were starting, it's only runners in this area, but now at the end of the race it's runners and spectators, so there's a lot more people, so the service was a lot more spotty. So Ted kept trying to call me to tell me like where to meet him or where he was, but it kept dropping essentially. But eventually we got through. He told me where he was. I figured out kind of where he was based on how he was describing it, and he was like, I'm as close as I possibly can be that the security will let me be. So I finally get to that area. They are funneling, like at this point, probably hundreds of people through like a single file thing, right? It's kind of crazy, but we're not supposed to bring the beer out of the running area because you can't have an open beverage, of course, in the city. So I just held the beer really low so I can give it to Ted. And like when Ted took a photo of it, they were on the floor. All this beer cans and all these water bottles were just on the floor everywhere
Because
they wouldn't let you take care of the beer. Now a lot of people didn't finish the beer, so now there's all this beer everywhere as well, and everything's sticky. And
Okay,
like,
that's where they
goodness
weren't
gracious.
organized. Okay.
I was like, Lord save us, right? So anyway, I find Ted, and it's funny because when I see him, he had called me to say to see where I was. So I was shouting to him, I said, yes, I see you, I see you. And the people in front of me kind of turned around because they didn't realize I had headphones in. I was just like, oh, sorry. It's like I'm talking to my husband, and they were like, oh yeah, that's where we're trying to find too. It's like our family as well. But anyway, we get out of there, of course, and then once we get out, there's then we walk to where it's a little quieter, and then there's actually more porta potties outside as well because then Ted had to pee, which I thought was really funny. So I was like, okay. But anyway, though, so then once you kind of get out of the runners area, it definitely opens up, I would say, a lot more, so it's not as crowded. And then so then we took some photos with the medal, and then I would say that was the overall race overall. So I'm just looking at my notes here. I feel like that's a lot of things I wanted to cover. And then we just, for the rest of the day, we just took the subway back to the hotel. I showered, and then one of Ted's friends lived in the area, so we ended up hanging out with some of his friends and stuff. Now they do give you a lot of coupons, of course, so like any race, they'll always give you coupons to do stuff. So the next day we did go to the art museum because you do get a little $2 off coupon to go to the art museum. And when you go there, basically every other runner is also there as well. So you basically just see everyone you just ran the race
medals
with.
on.
Yep, looking at everything. Now it's funny because when we checked out of our hotel, because we were going to leave that night, I didn't want to put my medal on because I was just like, oh, I feel silly because it's like, I don't know. It's like, I know people do that here. Because in Disney, for instance, after a race, everyone will wear their medal for the rest of the day.
Everywhere.
Even the following day and for the next few days, a lot of people wear their medals around the parks. So it's like very normal to do that. But in Chicago, I was like, I don't know if that's weird or not. So I didn't put my medal on right away. Once we got back down to the main part of Chicago, everyone had their medals on. So I was just like, oh, it's like everyone's like, I had my jacket on, but like everyone had the medal on. So Ted's like, well, you should wear yours too then. So I was like, okay. So I did. I took it out. And then we were in the art museum. Everyone had their medals on. Everyone who ran the race, very clear, was wearing their medal, wearing their jacket and their t-shirt and stuff like that. So I'd say if you run the race, might as well just wear the medal. Even at the airport, a lot of people wore their medals like through the airport.
I think you should wear the medal just to show you did the race. I'm telling you.
I didn't wear my medal through the airport, but a lot of other people did.
So you deserve that medal.
Yeah, just to say, it's like you should,
Yes.
because a lot of other people will, so you might as well too, right? It's like it's a big race. It costs a lot of money to do these races, travel,
it's
everything.
a big accomplishment.
So we did that. We saw the bean as well. We got that Garrett's popcorn, which I guess was pretty good. I don't know. I wasn't. It's like I do love popcorn, but there's lots of great popcorn in the world. I would say I don't really like flavored popcorn, so that's probably why I wasn't crazy about it. Because the Garrett's popcorn, they're famous for this caramel popcorn and cheddar popcorn like mixed.
Oh, okay.
And so we did taste it a little bit, but if I'm being honest, I just prefer like buttered popcorn. So it was good, but I'm at the bubble tea I had afterwards I thought was better. So again, that's just because I just don't really like the flavor of popcorn. But we were told we had to try it, so we did try it at the very least. So anyway, and then we ended up flying home that night. So again, a lot of people also left, I would say, that day too, because at that point it's like a Monday, so you're taking off work at that day. But yeah, so I'd say that's kind of my race review and recap. I did vlog a little bit while I was doing the race, so I will have a vlog with the race up as well for some visuals. That will not be out by the time this podcast episode comes out. But overall, if you're planning on running one of the world majors or running the Chicago Marathon in 2026, definitely let me know if you have any questions. I can definitely help out a little bit just with my own experience. Again, I'm only one experience, right? Again, 52,000 people ran this race, so there's other 52,000 opinions out there of how they ran the race and everything. So I'm just one of the many for sure. But it was really fun to run Chicago. I'm glad I got to run the Chicago race and run, again, a world major race as well too, since again, now I've run two, New York and Chicago. I'm looking forward to running more world majors in the future, world major races in the future. But all right, now let's get into some Disney news. I only have one little piece of Disney news for today's episode, and that is that Jingle Cruise is now in full swing in Magic Kingdom. It opened on November 3rd and will be around for the holiday season. So I know people really love Jingle Cruise, and I do love, honestly, all of the holiday overlays that they do in the parks. I wish we actually had more holiday overlays for Halloween and for the holiday season. I just think they're really fun and they make it really special. But yeah, so Jingle Cruise now in full swing. But all right, let's do some Disney birthdays. So up first, this is not in order, I just realized looking at this. So up first on November 11th is Felix Madrigal's birthday from Encanto. So happy birthday to Felix. And then on November 14th, goodness gracious, is Luisa Madrigal's birthday, also from Encanto. So happy birthday to the two of them. And then on November 10th, we have my cousin Vincent's birthday. So happy birthday to Vincent.
Happy birthday,
and then on November 13th, it is my best friend Shannon's birthday. So happy birthday as well to Shannon. So, all right, so let's finish our podcast today with our last segment, our Disney memory. Do you have a Disney memory for today's podcast?
My Disney memories of all the finish lines that we've been on. We weren't on. We were at New York, obviously. We've been at the Disney ones. We were in Canada. Every race, when I think of the memories, every race has a different memory, a different funny thing that'll happen.
Well, yeah, for marathons, there's only two you haven't been. It was just Richmond, Virginia, and this one. That you didn't come.
The craziness of just trying to get to the finish line, trying to figure out where to be, to find out where you're going. And I remember New York was the biggest one. That it was so bad. The weather was so bad. It was just for you, it was ridiculous. But for us, even for walking, we walked ourselves like 8 to 10 miles that day. Did it in 80-degree humid weather when we weren't prepared for it. It was just something that I say to myself whenever I think of these memories. I say to myself, I don't know how she does it. I don't know why she does it.
I'm already signed up for my race for next year too, my next marathon, which we won't reveal now. We'll reveal it in times to come. But I'm already planning on running my 8th marathon.
I don't know how she does it. She just keeps on doing it.
But yeah, so for my memory, I'd say yeah. So again, this was my 7th marathon. Again, this was one of my second slowest time. So for reference, my personal best for marathon is 4 hours 34 minutes, and that is when I ran in Philadelphia. And so I truly believe I'm going to run all my PRs in Philadelphia, because for my half marathon, my PR was in Philadelphia. Ran a bunch of other half marathons, couldn't PR, ran Philadelphia again, PR'd again in Philly. So I fully believe I'll probably PR again the next time I run Philly. I also think as well, Philly is always the weekend before Thanksgiving, so the weather is the best as well in that sense. I always run better in cooler weather. So next year, my next marathon will be in warmer weather again, because it's going to be in September. So I'm not necessarily thinking I'm going to PR, but we'll see. You never know.
Well, you know what? It doesn't. What's your favorite memory from this race?
Well, I was saying too, yes. So again, I've run 7 marathons at this point, and it's always fun to run marathons. Again, every race is going to be different. Every race that you've ever run is going to be different, of course, but marathons have always been very special in that sense. So whenever you're running the marathon, even if it's not a great time, you're still having a good time in that sense of like just the accomplishment of running a race. So for Chicago, I ran in 5 hours 3 minutes. So it's my second marathon over 5 hours. Again, my only other one over 5 hours is New York, where I ran in 5 hours 10 minutes. So my 2 slowest races were the world majors, which I think is really funny in that sense. But I feel like also that just means you enjoy more of the race itself, right? You get to see more of the people, more of the sites that get to be seen. Again, these courses are picked out very specifically to maximize, time within the city, maximize
and also
things.
your PR is against yourself.
Yeah, it's again, I always say too, I'm always running races for fun, right? It's like I run it because I enjoy running and for the fun of it. Yeah, not necessarily like I'm not going to win the race, right? It's like
you're not going to be one of those people getting through in 2 hours being on the TV.
And I'll say too, I'm not running to qualify for like Boston, for instance, right? Because I know a lot of runners, like, because Ted said when I was still running the race, he ran into someone who ran in 3 hours, and he was really upset with his time. And Ted was like, I don't understand why you're upset. Like, you ran the race in like 3 hours 2 minutes, right? Like two hours faster than me. But I realized if you're trying to qualify for a certain race and you need a certain time,
then you have.
For instance, for Boston this year, it is really tough because they changed the qualifying time again by 90 seconds. So over 5,000 runners by 90 seconds are not going to qualify for Boston this year, which is tough to see that, to be like, I'm a minute off from qualifying for this race, right? So, and I do think that it's tough in that sense. But again, I don't personally run in that way. I don't personally have that mindset, because I think that can taint your view on the race itself and taint your love for the race. Now, I realize too, it's not easy. It's very expensive to run these races. races. For instance, if you qualify, you automatically get into Boston. So it's like you don't have to raise money for the charity, for instance. And so I understand that since it, you know, if you want
That's why they make it so tight.
But it's also a big accomplishment to say that you're qualifying time for Boston. So again, I understand that in that sense if you're very competitive, and I think it's always good to be competitive.
What is Boston's qualifying time?
For women, I think it's like 3 hours, like 18 minutes. And for men, it's like, I think 3 hours. So, but yeah, so again, it's very tight to run to the qualifying time for Boston. And to get, and otherwise, it's very difficult too. Boston also is notoriously has the fewest amount of runners for the race itself because.
Well, that's why they have to be so picky.
Yeah, because the streets are so tiny. So also, just to say, I lived in Boston for 5 years. Most of the race is not even in the city, right? Most of the race is in the state of Massachusetts. Only a part of that race is in the city. Right. So, but anyway, though, so yeah, so I do realize too that there's always competitiveness to any sport they're going to do. And I do think being competitive, even with yourself, is important and to always push yourself to do better and to be better and to be more fit and everything. But I think there is that fine line of pushing yourself to be competitive with yourself versus also having fun in whatever sport you're playing. And so I think that it's like any athlete is going to walk that line of being competitive and having fun. And I think I tend to lean more on the fun side. I've never really been that competitive. Growing up, I never played any competitive sports. I don't think ever. So I was like, I don't think I ever played a competitive sport, honestly. It just wasn't really myself. And so yeah, in that self too, it's like, yeah, I'm not really that competitive as a person. Right. And so I'm always going to run.
You're competing against yourself.
Yeah, I'm always going to run for fun at first, but it not that it was disappointing, but I do wish I was just under 5 hours is all. That was the only thing that I was hoping for. So I was 2 minutes over 5 hours, but at the end of the day, it is what it is.
It is what it
I'm glad I got to run Chicago.
You finished it.
And if I'm being honest, I probably will never run Chicago again the same way I'll probably never run New York again because a lot of the marathons I run, I kind of run once and then I move on and I try to run another race. Although I say that, I definitely will run Philly again just because I do live in Philly. So I probably will do Philly again because it's a local. Right. But some of these big major world majors, they're once in a lifetime experiences.
There are so many other, there are other world majors. There are other races.
That's what I'm saying. There's other races I want to do.
Why would you go there again?
That's what I'm saying. Is like this is a once in a lifetime experience. So like I'll always have that memory. Same thing with all of my races, like Richmond, Virginia, and Niagara Falls, and even when I did, I mean, like Disney, I'll definitely do again as well, of course, just because it's Disney. But again, it's like all those races, even the ones I have repeated, some of the ones in Philly and the ones in Disney, because I've done Princess Half Marathon twice. It's each one has its own unique memories and you know own things that go with it that are just really special. So, but yeah, but I really do love racing. I think it's really fun to race in a general sense. They say that like less than 1% of the population has run a marathon before, so it's like it's fun to be in that less than 1%, right? So got to be special somehow. So, all right,
you're always special.
All right, thanks everyone for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. Make sure you give us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. And make sure you follow us on social media, Almost Amanda X. And you can also let us know too if you have any questions about any of the races that I have run. Again, I've run Walt Disney World, then I did the virtual Walt Disney World during COVID. I've done Philadelphia, Niagara Falls, New York City, Richmond, Virginia, and now Chicago. And then I do have, again, I'm already signed up for my race for next year as well. So I'm an avid runner in that sense. Would love to answer any questions anyone has. And that YouTube video will eventually be coming. Not sure when. One day when I get around to editing it. So you can always answer more questions on the Chicago Marathon when we get to that too. So, all right, everyone, thanks for listening. And until then, we'll see you real soon.